Now let's come to discuss conditional access app control for DLP, where DLP stands for data loss prevention, and implement this with the help of Defender for Cloud Apps. So again, as part of this video, we're going to be covering the theory part, diving deep into the conceptual part of implementing this concept. And this concept is basically like preventing your data from either accidental or malicious data leaks. So let's quickly get started with the video. So again, before we can perform this demo or the demo that is going to be in the subsequent video on your own device or on your own tenant organization, there are some prerequisites as far as the licenses are concerned. So first things first, because we're going to be using conditional access of Microsoft Entra ID, this conditional access policy of Microsoft Entra ID is only and only supported by some set specific Antra ID licenses, and them being Antra ID P1 or either the P2 license. And again, if you were to enroll for this license, you first get to try this license on a trial period of the very first month. So again, the trial license can also work for demo purposes. And secondly, because we're going to be using Defender for Cloud Apps, a standalone Defender for Cloud Apps license is required, or a license that has Defender for Cloud Apps included can also work, which in my case, my tenant organization has a Microsoft 365 V5 license without audio conferencing. So all of these licenses, the check boxes for these licenses need to be ticked in. So make sure you have that before you can move on to the demo part of this video. But as far as theory is concerned, these prerequisites are of no value because we're going to be covering theory in this particular video. All right. First things first, let us understand what is conditional access app control. So conditional access app control in Defender for Cloud Apps is a feature that provides real-time monitoring and control over user access to cloud apps. It uses access policies and session policies to monitor and control user app access and sessions across your organization. So let's say you have a bunch of generative AI applications, with one of these generative AI applications being Microsoft Copilot, right? So I'm talking about copilot.microsoft.com, or Copilot for Microsoft 365. Let's take the example of Copilot for Microsoft 365, which can be accessed via the URL copilot.microsoft.com. Now, there can be two scenarios where a user is trying to access copilot.microsoft.com. Uh, and let's discuss the first scenario first of all. So, in the first scenario, the user is trying to access copilot.microsoft.com and is also trying to upload uh, files from his local device to copilot.microsoft.com from a managed and compliant corporate device. Now, in this case, you would want to let the user upload files to copilot.microsoft.com because you're pretty sure that because all the compliance protocols that you have in place for the managed corporate device, there's no malware being uploaded to copilot.microsoft.com or Copilot for M365. Now, if you go back to, or if you move forward to the second case scenario, the second case scenario can be your user in your organization trying to access Copilot for M365 via an unmanaged device, via a non-compliant device. Now, in this case, you could obviously run into the problem of getting malware up as a file uploaded to Copilot for M365. Now, in this case, this is where conditional access app control would kick into play. And I'm particularly talking about the session policy part of it. So in the session policy part of conditional access app control for Copilot M365, in this case, we will not let the user upload files to Copilot for M365 because he or she is trying to access Copilot from, let's say, uh, an unmanaged device, and you could obviously run into the problem of letting a malware get uploaded to your OneDrive account, right? Because whenever you upload a file to Copilot for M365, that file at the backend gets uploaded to your OneDrive account, and you would not want malware uploaded to your OneDrive account, right? So this was one case scenario with regards to AI applications that I can think of. But these case scenarios or use cases can obviously be uh, thrown to various cloud applications, and with main being your Office 365 application, your SharePoint online, your Exchange Online, Outlook in this case, so on and so forth. All right. So access policies can be used to block access to specific apps for users of unmanaged devices, just like I talked about in my example, or block access to certain apps for native clients. So if the user is trying to access, let's say, OneDrive from an unsupported browser or from a not so updated browser, you block the access for that user. So in this case, we will be triggering an access policy, right? Uh, but in the session policy, the example wherein I talked about user trying to access Copilot from M365 can be set an example. So again, for example, you can block access to Salesforce for users of unmanaged devices or block access to Dropbox for native clients. So again, extends to all cloud applications that are discoverable inside of your organization, not limited to Office 365, not limited to Copilot for M365, right? Now let's backtrace things a bit and try to understand how does conditional access app control with Defender for M365, sorry, not Defender for M365, with Defender for cloud apps work under the hood, right? So Microsoft Defender Cloud Apps, which is written over here as MDCA in short, works by leveraging a reverse proxy between the cloud app that is being secured and the user. Now, this enables MDCA to provide real-time DLP and session controls on the cloud app. So this, so whenever you implement a conditional access app control with Defender for Cloud Apps, what this does is it creates a proxy connection of some sort between the user and the cloud app that the user is trying to access. So because it's trying to create a proxy session, it can implement various session control policies by either enabling or disabling user access to the cloud app in this case, based upon certain conditions that you put. Now, those conditions could be uh, not letting a user access your cloud app, your OneDrive account, if he or she is on an unmanaged device, or not letting the user access Exchange Online via an unmanaged device. Now, one thing to note over here is because you're trying to use, or because MDCA, Defender for Cloud Apps, is using a Microsoft Cloud App Security Proxy over here, the URL appears a bit different. So without MDCA conditional access app control applied on, let's say, Exchange Online, when you go to outlook.office.com, this is how the URL looks like. But if you have enabled conditional access uh, app control on top of your Exchange Online or Outlook in this case, whenever you try to navigate to outlook.office.com, it appears with this URL. And if you notice the difference, after outlook.office.com, there is .mcas.ms, which means there's a proxy connection established between the user and Exchange Online, Outlook in this case, which means that in fact Exchange Online is set under conditional access app control. So this is how it works under the hood by establishing a reverse proxy between the cloud app that is being secured and the user so that it can, enable or disable the access for the user to the cloud app. So this is one screenshot that I took when I enabled or applied a cloud access app control on Exchange Online. And so to begin with, the policy was that whenever a user tries to access Exchange Online from an unmanaged device, and my device is obviously not a compliant device, not a managed device. So whenever a user tries to access Exchange Online from an unmanaged device like my device, I will block, or the cloud access app control policy will block anything related to cut, copy, paste, and uploading of files to Exchange Online. So whenever I try to access or go to my Outlook account, it appears with a pop-up or a screen, a preceding screen like this, which says that your access to Microsoft Exchange Online is being monitored, which means that it's trying to tell me that Defender for Cloud Apps, Cloud Access Control Policy is applied on Exchange Online. If you notice in the left-hand side, bottommost part of the screen, there's also Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps. A reference to Defender for Cloud Apps is also given. Uh, and then, if you notice, when I go to outlook.office.com, the URL has changed, right? It's .mcas.ms written just after the base URL, which means, well, it's being monitored. My Exchange Online activity is being monitored, and I have conditional access into place for my tenant organization. And whenever I try to copy any of the mail, right, try to copy, paste anything, or even perform cut copy paste inside of Exchange Online, it says, well, your action is blocked, and this action is blocked by your organization's security policy, and a Defender for Cloud Apps reference is being given in the bottommost left hand side of the pop-up that has appeared on my screen. All right, so talking about some potential use cases of this cloud access control policy that I could think of is, number one use case could be blocking the sending of chat containing sensitive info like credit card numbers. So you can block intercommunication between the users in an organization, or even communication between users in an organization and external users of, I mean, messages that contain sensitive information like credit card numbers or US social security numbers or even GST numbers and stuff like that. Second could be preventing uploading of unlabeled files to Office 365. So you only let the users upload files that are labeled with a sensitivity label, and these sensitivity labels can be of confidential, or maybe you would want to let the users upload uh, files to Office 365 that are only configured with a particular sensitivity label. Can be anything, right? Third use case could be blocking the download of file based on sensitivity label. So you do not let the user download a file that has a particular type of sensitivity label. Uh, could be something like this. And the fourth use case could be blocking downloads from OneDrive on unmanaged devices. And this is, I think, a very common use case that a number of organizations have put uh, into place. So, yeah, I guess with this slide, we have pretty much come to the end of this video. It was a pretty interesting one, and quite an informative one, something new, something special. With this, let's quickly move on to the next set of videos.